Late? I'm never late. What do you mean? Hello everyone. We're back. Another live stream. Dark Theories. Part 3. That's right, they call me the late Lord Haven. Let me adjust myself. There we go. That was my chair. Okay. Here we go. Now, usually my weekly live streams, yes they're weekly now, will be on Saturday. But I am quite busy this weekend. So I'm doing a cheeky last minute Friday live stream. So this will be a quick one, maybe an hour and a half if you're lucky. And then Sunday the Greyjoy video will come out. Not the Greyjoy, Iron Islands generally. Every single Iron Island house in CK3, A Game of Thrones explained. And then from now on it'll be live stream every Saturday, video every Sunday. Generally. That's the idea. Hopefully. Hello everyone, come in here. See, someone called me gay in the chat, but they didn't do it in a super chat, so what am I supposed to do? Yes, it's been a busy month, but I finally set up Patreon. It's finally been launched. It's in the description if you want to browse it. Check it out. So, that means I can finally get back to working full-time on my videos, because this month has mostly been live streams. I'll tell you what, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare working on like a video knowing that you're not going to release it, you're just going to put it on Patreon, because I have like a few exclusive videos, and I'm just sitting on them like, I want to release them. Okay. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Like I said, it's a Friday. Most of my audience is American, so a lot of you will be at work and not watching this live, so I'm not going to wait too long for a load of people to come in. Let's just go with it. Alright, so, as you can see, professional... I swear it gets messier every stream. my terrible Microsoft Paint layout somehow gets worse. It gets, like, wonkier. Anyway, you guys voted for the Crownlands and King's Landing. So, what should we begin with? Let's start with trials. Let's discuss the trials in King's Landing. So this is the first dark theory. Cersei loses her trial by combat. So, the idea here, of course, I'm going to move this like that. The idea here, god damn it, oh never mind. The idea here is that Cersei is going on trial. Well, she never did in the show because kaboom. But in the books, maybe she'll go on trial for her crimes, for her sins, which are adultery, incest, and regicide. According to Lancel was involved in King Robert's, semi-murder, getting him drunk for the hunt. Hold on a second. Okay, yeah. Sorry, something happened. So Lancel's involved in getting Robert drunk, getting him killed. And of course he's the one who confesses to the High Sparrow. Like in the show. And says, yeah, Cersei told me to do this. I also slept with Cersei. And that's what she's accused of. Is she accused of sleeping with Jaime? By the Faith. I can't remember. What exactly is she on trial for? It's murdering the king. And then adultery, sleeping with Lancel. Is she accused of actively sleeping with Jaime? It must be, right? Yeah. And so the idea is that she will probably call a trial by combat. And who will she call? None other than the latest member of the Kingsguard, Sir Robert Strong, who is basically Gregor Clegane. He's the Mountain, but he's sort of potentially in a state of undeadness. He may be a sort of necromantic creature raised from the dead by Qyburn or kept in some kind of strange servile state of limbo. I don't know. But it's basically the Mountain, and it's very obviously the Mountain, big, strong member of the Kingsguard. And so the general theory before Season 6 came out, the general theory was, there'll be a trial by combat and Cersei will call on the Mountain to be her champion, because obviously it's the Mountain, right? and the faithful put someone forward, and the mountain will beat them, and Cersei wins her trial. And then of course the show went in a different way, which is the trial never even happens. And of course in the show, trial by combat was outlawed, which pushed Cersei towards the whole wildfire thing. But what happens if she loses? What happens if she loses? I guess the theory here is... Oh, and by the way, most of these theories are from that old 8-year-old Reddit post that I keep forgetting to link in the description, and some of these theories I've added myself. I'll let you know which is which. But this is one I've added myself, which is, what happens if she loses? So first off, is it going to happen? No, because that would be the dumbest way for Cersei's story to end. No, it wouldn't be dumb. What would be dumb is her getting crushed by bricks. But no, it doesn't make sense that they would set up. Oh, there's going to be a trial. She can do trial by combat. Robert Strong is there. Either it's going to happen and he'll win, or it's not going to happen. Perhaps more likely it's not going to happen, because the classic George R. R. Martin rule: if he says something's going to happen, if characters are announcing their intentions, it won't go down exactly as it's been stated, because that's not exciting or surprising enough. So it would be surprising if she lost the trial, but let's break it down. So that would involve the mountain, Undead Mountain, being defeated by someone who's good enough. Genuinely, who's good enough? I don't know. Another member of the Kingsguard? Well, Balon Swan is busy in Dawn. One of the members of the Kingsguard is a Kettle Black. I can't remember which one, but they're currently imprisoned. Boris Blount and Meryn Trant are kind of average at best. Oh, and Loras is in Dragonstone either dying from the oil, the boiling oil that got poured on him, or if that's fake, he's not there. He's not available. Although it could be Loras. It could be that the Tyrells lied, and that Loras will come back, and then Loras versus the Mountain, and then he wins, and the Mountain is slain. But then what happens? It's okay. The Mountain is defeated. Big shock to the reader, and then Cersei's executed, and that's the end. Well, I don't know. What's that got to do with the Valonqar? What's that got to do with... How does that link in with her whole relationship with Jaime, where they have to end together? Like, thematically, it makes the most sense that their stories end together. That classic line, we came into the world together, we'll leave the world together. It would just feel a bit random of, oh, okay, she got her just desserts. There was a trial, she lost it, and then she gets beheaded or whatever. I don't think it's going to happen. Although, that being said... What if Loras is fine, and the Tyrells were lying, and he comes back, trial by combat, Loras slays the Mountain. Loras is Marjorie's younger brother. The younger Tyrell brother. Valonqar, younger brother. Boom, there we go. Is it going to happen? I'm going to say no, because it would be unpredictable, yes, but also unpredictable because it's disappointing. It'd be like, oh, okay, so Cersei just loses the trial and gets executed, and that's the end. And she doesn't have any tricks up her sleeves. She doesn't have one last hurrah. It's just sort of, that's it. Okay, not really gonna happen. But is it dark? This isn't a dark theory. I added it. It's not really a dark theory. It's a murderer, an incestuous murderer, and worst of all, an adulterer. No, I'm joking. Is goes through this bullshit trial by combat, happens to lose, and is rightfully executed. And she's a horrible person. That's right at the bottom. That's not dark at all. That would actively be a good thing if the borderline evil, incompetent Cersei is killed. So, and also, that's another thing to mention. If that happens, then we lose incompetent Cersei, which means things could stabilise, and that's not what Varys wants. Varys kills Kevan specifically to further destabilise things so that it will be easier for Aegon to come in. Cersei is so almost cartoonishly incompetent, almost uncharacteristically. She's a lot more villainous and incompetent than she comes across in previous books. It's sort of turned up to 10, and you could say it's paranoia and so on, but it was very much played up because of the lack of the 5-year time skip. It was, we need things to go to shit quickly, have Cersei fuck everything up. So it's at the bottom. Is it going to happen? No. Her just losing the trial? Nah. Of course not. So, what's next? Oh, another thing to mention, actually, is... What if it's not... she could... Okay, she won't lose, but another thing to mention is it might not be just a single combat trial. It could be a trial by 7. Right? There used to be a thing, trial by 7, where it's 7 versus 7 because of the 7 gods. 7 gods, 7 kingdoms, 7 members of the King's Guard, they love it. So the idea would be, like Maegor the Cruel, going back all the way to Maegor the Cruel, where he was involved in a trial by 7, right? Am I misremembering that? I think he was. And there's a trial by 7 in the Hedge Knight as well, where Dunk has to find 6 champions to fight for him. Or with him, rather. But kind of for him as well. So I guess the idea would be, if there is a trial by 7, and that's a way for Cersei to lose, because no one wants to, maybe no one is willing to fight for her outside of Robert Strong. Everyone's basically like, no. All the people who do say yes are Meryn Trant and Boris Blount and kind of useless people. Could be. But like I said, probably not, because it wouldn't make sense for her character arc for that to be her end. So the alternative is she wins her trial by combat, and who suffers but Lancel Lannister. Oh. There we go. Lancel Lannister is killed by Sir Robert Strong. So, the idea here is that Lancel will be the champion to fight against Sir Robert Strong, representing the faith, because of course he's a member of the faith militant. Specifically, he's one of the warrior sons, which is the armed wing of the faith militant. And maybe there's a bit of a redemption arc going on, where he wants redemption. He feels guilt and shame, and clearly he's been traumatized by the near-death experience during the Battle of Blackwater, which saw him fall deeper into the teachings and the virtues and of the faith and so on. And becoming faith-pilled is how I put it in my videos. So you could say, yes, he killed the king, he fornicated with his cousin and cuckolded the king, and he needs to redeem himself. So yes, as a warrior's son, as a former knight... Has he renounced his knighthood? I think he has. As a former knight, he will step forward and say... Actually, no, I think he's still a knight. But he will step forward and say, yes, I will be the one to do it. And if I die, then I've still redeemed myself. And if I win, then I've won. Or whatever. And then, of course, Lancel would be snapped like a twig by Robert Strong. And that was a big theory. Going into Season 6, lots of people were saying, oh, Lancel versus Mountain. I'll be specific here. In a trial by combat. Maybe. What do you guys think? Because again, it's hard to know whether a trial by combat will happen, because in the show they did the whole wildfire explosion, and it's hard to know how much is from the books and how much is their idea. Is there going to be no trial by combat, and so Cersei has something else up her sleeve, or will there be a trial and that allows her to wiggle out of that and then start plotting, and the plot will move on from there? It's more likely than her losing it, but I'm not even sure if the trial will take place. And would it be smart for the Faith to put Lancel forwards? Like, I understand why he'd want to go forward, but they want to get rid of her. Like, they think she's guilty. Would they really say, okay, Lancel, yeah, skinny, grey-haired, traumatized Lancel, thin as a stick, go in and defeat him? Or maybe if they're so religious, it's like God's on your side. You'll win no matter what. And if you lose, then maybe you were lying. So I will say, is it going to happen? I'll put it in the middle. A nice, boring, on one side, this, on the other side, that. I believe something in the middle, the bullshit essay conclusion in school. I believe both sides are right. So let's put it in the middle. How dark is it? I mean, Lancel, he seems like a good boy. He's a bit of an arrogant teen, smug, spoiled, but then he gets harmed at the Battle of the Blackwater, joins the faith, and sort of changes a bit, becomes more humble. So it's not super dark, because it's not like I'm not particularly attached to Lancel Lannister. It's dark. Okay, I'll say it's above the middle. It's above here, because it's dark that of the two who deserve to die, Lancel deserves to die least compared to the Mountain, right? And also it means that Cersei gets away with her crimes, so it is quite dark. So I'll put it up here. So the next trial-related theory is that Marjorie will lose her trial. There is actually... Hold on, let me check what the... Yes, so Marjorie will lose her trial. The idea behind this is that... Because, Marjorie's still being accused of adultery, fornication, and so on, which is a conspiracy concocted by Cersei. And loads of people are blamed. And as a reader, we don't really know what's true. I think the maesters say, well, her maidenhead is broken, but she's also ridden a horse, and that happens to a lot of girls. It doesn't necessarily mean she's had sex, but also she's pretty and she seems quite flirty and she's popular, so maybe she has, but no, maybe she hasn't. We know she almost definitely didn't with Renly, right? They barely shared the same tent. But yeah, maybe not, probably not. I reckon Marjorie is genuinely a virgin, and it's just Cersei sort of framing her, but while also believing it's true, and kind of like oh yeah, of course she's a slut, but we don't have the evidence, but what we can do is blame a bunch of people and have one of the Kettle Blacks actively confess. Because the idea is Cersei's like, okay, you confess, I pardon you. I don't pardon you, but I give you the choice to go to the Wall. You go to the Wall, you kill Jon Snow. I can't remember why she wanted to do that, but you assassinate Jon Snow, then I'll pardon you later when this all blows over and you get a big stack of cash for the trouble. So it's quite cool. It reminds me of Anne Boleyn. Anne Boleyn being accused of adultery and locked up, and then all sorts of men were accused of sleeping with her. Some of them perhaps genuine, others clearly bullshit, like her own brother. Probably didn't happen. And in the Tudors TV show, there's a sort of a montage, I think, of different men being interrogated and tortured and forced into confessing. And it's sort of very much inspired by that. And we definitely missed out on that in the show. That could have been such a cool plot thing where Cersei concocts this conspiracy and all these men throughout the court, knights, the exiled prince Jalapar, the Red Wine twins, one of the Kettle Blacks actively, confessing, wink wink, nudge nudge, and then a lot of the Blue Bard, and then a lot of them. I think Cersei's plan was have half of them be released, and then have the others sort of tortured into confession. The idea being, okay, well, we can, if we accuse a bunch of people and then they all say, and then they're all forced to confess, then it's kind of suspicious. But if we get a bunch and then half go and half are released, but half say yes, then it's more realistic, because we cast a net and we caught some fish, some guilty fish. But of course, the whole thing, as I said, is bullshit. But nonetheless, the Faith are going along with it, and she's still being accused of adultery, and she's going to have a trial. And I guess the idea is she can also call a trial by combat. And the idea behind that dark theory, let me actually write it down. Marjorie loses a trial. The idea is that she will probably, who knows, maybe she'll have a proper trial go down because there's not enough evidence. Or if she's scared that the Faith are going to swing it against her, or Cersei has something up her sleeve or something, she'll do a classic trial by combat. But who's there to fight for her? Right, who in the Kingsguard will fight for her? Perhaps, but Cersei will tell Robert Strong that he's not allowed to, and she follows his orders. The other members of the Kingsguard, like I said, Balon Swan is away, Boros and Meryn are kind of useless. Her own brother, Loras, he could be wounded, he could be dying. And there's Garland, her older brother, who's a great warrior, Garland the Gallant, so perhaps he will come down to help. Who knows? But either way, for whatever reason, let's say she loses the trial. And what would the punishment be? she's married to the king and she's cheating on him, that would be death, right? That would be the death sentence. So it would be Marjorie dying. And I think the idea here is that if Marjorie loses her trial, Cersei would win hers. So it would be the blatantly innocent one being found guilty and being killed, and then the actual guilty woman being let scot-free. A little George R. R. Martin twisty-turny subversion there. I don't know. I'm not sure. Because what role does Marjorie play in the future? I don't think she's going to keep jumping to new kings to marry. You know, she's not going to be like, oh, Tyrells, let's switch sides to Aegon, and then she'll try and marry Aegon, because I think that's kind of Ariane's role. I think if Ariane wasn't a character, or wasn't a POV, I would think, okay, maybe Marjorie can exist to become a later POV, or to try and switch over to Aegon and keep trying to become the queen. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think maybe she'll lose the trial, but more likely Cersei will kill her, I think. Yeah, because I'm not sure what purpose she serves in the future of the story. Or maybe I'm just being maybe I've been tainted by the TV show. Maybe the TV show is just making me think, oh, you know, she's just boom, got wiped out in one go. She's not relevant to the future. Or she might be. Who knows? But I think the idea is that the Tyrells aren't on Team Aegon. They're not with young Griff. So losing her trial, that would be pretty dark, because she's an innocent girl and she's done nothing wrong. So that can be down here. An innocent dying. Oh, wait, sorry, up here. And is it going to happen? I'd say possibly. I'll put it here. Okay. Okay, what's now? Oh, and another thing is, a consequence of this, of course, could be the Tyrells officially abandoning Cersei, being like, you are responsible for this, goodbye. And they just leave. They either then side with Aegon, or they just leave and go neutral and wait for the winner, and then side with whoever the winner is. Excuse me. I will check the chat once I've gone through the next two theories, which are both trial related. If anyone wants to send in a super chat, I will prioritise those as usual. Let me see. Okay, this is a weird one. This is from the Reddit thread. The 8-year-old Reddit thread. So this is Cersei loses her trial and gets torn apart by the idea here that she'll lose her trial. Cersei loses the trial, whether it's trial by combat, trial by 7, whatever, and will get torn apart by small folk in front of Tommen. There was a link to a post, because a lot of these theories are taken from those old posts, but that one had been deleted, so I don't know what the logic behind this one is. So let's work together. I'm going to work with the chat. Let's work together on this one. What? What's the idea here? Why would the small folk do that? And how would they do it, rather? Like, if there's a trial, then what? Like, where is this trial happening? If it's happening in the Sept of Baelor, or in the Red Keep, do we know where it's happening? I'm not sure. But why would there be small folk in the vicinity to, grab her? It's sort of implying that if she loses her trial, she's doing another walk of faith and then getting grabbed, but that doesn't make sense. The walk of faith was her atonement for adultery. Yes, that was it. That was her atonement for adultery, which she confessed to, but she didn't confess to regicide and incest. Gets torn apart by the small folk. Oh, another thing I didn't talk about is, yeah, actually, wait a minute. Yeah, Marjorie's accused of adultery, right? So if she loses her trial, that's not necessarily death. That could just be a walk of shame. Because there was a big part in the show, wasn't it, where they said, oh, Marjorie might do a walk of shame, but then she didn't do that. And audiences worldwide were enraged. Let me double check this. Marjorie loses her trial and is put to death. Okay, that's what the post says. But would she be put to death? This is assuming she'll be put to death, but I don't know. I didn't prep for this one. I didn't prep for this one as much as I do my other ones. Like I said, been busy with Patreon. Cersei loses the trial, gets torn apart by the small folk. I'm going to check the chat. Has anyone got any ideas what this is about? How would that happen? Why would it happen? Maybe on the way to the Sept of Baelor, someone says. But that's if if this is about losing the trial. So let's say she's already lost it and then she's taken somewhere to be punished. And then she's grabbed and... I don't know. I'm sure the theory is the post that was deleted probably has lots of evidence and foreshadow stuff and quotes, but I don't know where to put this exactly because it's a bit random. So let's put this dark. I mean, yeah, if she's torn apart, that's pretty dark. She kind of deserves it, but in front of Tommen, what did he do? So I'll put it in the middle because poor Tommen, but also Cersei kind of deserves it. Is it going to happen? No, it's kind of random, so I'm going to put it there. My live streams get less professional as time goes on. You'd think they'd like gradually get more slick, and each video I'm more chaotic. I'm like, wait, what's going on? Okay, one more trial related thing, then I'll probably read through some chat stuff. So this one isn't in the thread because of course this thread came out before season 6 of Game of Thrones. This was something I'm adding in, which is basically what happens in season 6 happens in the book. So Cersei does season 6 episode 10 on a bunch of motherfuckers. She blows up the Sept of Baelor. Her way of getting out of the trial, or maybe after winning the trial and just getting rid of a bunch of loose ends, or maybe during a trial, I don't know. But the idea here is that, like in the show, there's a complex political scene, different factions. Actually, no, that's not like the show at all. But in a complex political scene, different factions, different people with their own goals and ambitions, lots of intrigue, and Cersei has enough. It's too much. There's too much going on. And she decides to cut through this complex political Gordian knot. But instead of a sword, she uses wildfire. And we know that she's obsessed just a little bit with wildfire. In early books, her eyes are described as sort of being green as wildfire, and at the start of A Feast for Crows, she burns down the Tower of the Hand with wildfire because she's paranoid that Tyrion may still be hiding in there in the walls. It's literally, I am in your walls. God damn it. Yeah. So the idea is that it sort of set up her obsession. I guess obsession. It is kind of weird. Isn't it implied that she's slightly turned on by the wildfire at some point? Did I make that up? Am I thinking of Ares? But she does have a bit of a thing with wildfire, and it's probably going to play out in some way, right? It does feel like foreshadowing for something. In the show, there isn't that build-up. The only build-up is her being like, hey, Qyburn, remember that thing we planned? Is that thing possible? And he's like, yeah, the thing is possible. And then in episode 10, boom happens. So I've got mixed thoughts about this one. On one hand, I don't like how the show did it. I mean, I like the direction. Just to clarify, Miguel Sapochnik's direction in the show, really good, right? The Light of the Seven. It was booming and bombastic, but before that, it was creeping. It's a slow creeping song, and then it becomes bombastic and dramatic, and it's a great build-up. And the fact that it's using organs tells the audience that something is different, something is wrong. They're using a new type of instrument, and the constant shots of people looking worried, and the slow, silent unveiling of the wildfire, the little conspiracy, the little gunpowder plot. And then it finally blows up, and then it cuts to Cersei smugly sipping her wine. I think direction-wise and acting-wise, very well done. In terms of writing, in terms of being set up, it wasn't really set up that well. Was it very interesting? No. Her just, like, blowing up all the key players. Was it very smart? No. The worst part actually is the consequences. Were there any consequences? No. One of the worst parts of the show is the fact that she got away with that. What's that famous quote, that joke online where it's like, Cersei blowing up the Sept of Baelor is like someone blowing up the Vatican and killing both the Pope and the Kardashian family at the same time. Her killing the Tyrells and the High Sparrow. And she just gets away with it. So, yeah, and I thought, okay, so no intrigue, no scheming, just she blows everything up, and then nothing comes of it. It's just a way to get rid of a bunch of actors and we don't have to pay them for the future series. I wasn't a fan of that. On the other hand, I do kind of like this in theory. I do like what it could be. I don't dislike the idea of the Gordian knot, the whole... She gets fed up with everything, she's like, fine, I'll do it this way. I'll just gather everyone in one place, kill them all in one go. And of course, if it has consequences, if it is a monstrous, stupid thing, and it's portrayed that way, and it has consequences, yes, that could be good. And if the situation's more... Because in the show, it was sort of... A lot of the complexity of King's Landing just faded away. It was very sort of slow-paced, boring, dull, and then suddenly explosion. Whereas in the books, if it gets so complex, I can see it being like, she's had enough. She's had enough. She's super paranoid. She's angry. She's fueled by grief and bitterness and misanthropy, rather. And her obsession with wildfire, and it all comes together, and then boom, she blows it up. I think it could work. It could work. But what would it be? Would it be literally taking out every single player, and then what happens? Because I think the only reason that would happen would be a sort of a death knell to the Lannister regime. Basically, one last nail in the coffin. The Lannisters are a spent force. Their legacy is dead. Young Griff is coming in to take everything over from the evil tyrant queen. That's what I think it would be if it happened. So, is it going to happen? It's more likely to, because it happened in the show, and I assume they got it from George, but they never explicitly stated that. They never said, this was one of the things George told us. But it would be a bit out of nowhere if they just randomly went, hey, what if she blew something up? So, and George likes to, as he says, pilfer from history. He takes historical events and he goes, boom, times 1,000. So the Red Wedding is based on the Black Dinner and the Glencoe Massacre, times 100, right? The Titan of Braavos is based on an actual ancient statue. I can't remember what it is. But like huge, but massive, right? The Wall is in part inspired by Hadrian's Wall, but again, times 1,000. So this is very much like the gunpowder plot. Guy Fawkes and the Catholic plotters trying to blow up King James I, right? The Protestant king. Except this one succeeds, and instead of gunpowder, it's wildfire. So I'm going to say it's likely because it happened in the show, and I can see George being inspired by history, and maybe it'll go down a different way. Is it dark? Yes, it's dark. Lots of death. And it'll probably, I think that if it is to happen, it'll be the death knell for the Lannister regime. I think that would be the point. The Colossus of Rhodes. Thank you very much, everyone. Yep. Okay, that's the last trial-based theory, so time to check the chat. See again, your boy's only got one monitor, so let's see. I don't know if I said this in the last chat, in the last live stream, but I was listening to a Swiftian Glidus live stream, one of their old ones, and Swifty was saying that he can't use a computer unless there are 4 monitors, and Glidus was complaining, going, I've only got 2 monitors. How do you think I feel? I was sitting there like, mate, I've got 1. You're live streaming with 2 monitors is hard? I'd love 2 monitors. Oh my god. Oh, I have a super chat. Oh, very sorry. Tater nuts. I didn't see that. Thank you for the $5. I appreciate it a lot. Under what circumstances do you think Jaime and Cersei will meet again? And how will Cersei respond to him given that he abandoned her? Well, they have to meet again. Just for both their characters. Which is why I don't buy stuff like she's going to die at the trial and so on. Jaime and Cersei's characters need to come back and meet in some capacity. What circumstances? Either at the end... See, I do think they sort of have to die together, so the next time could easily be the end of both of their stories. where Jaime sort of continues his arc in the Riverlands. Brienne, Lady Stoneheart, perhaps some other stuff. And then finally, he ends up in King's Landing, and they both end up being... They are both killed, probably because Aegon takes King's Landing, and that's sort of the end of their arc. And again, I do sort of subscribe to the Jaime killing Cersei theory. I think that makes sense. Both of him choosing to die with Cersei because he's obsessed with her, and it's a toxic relationship and he can't let go. That'd be so disappointing. So disappointing. And seeing as it had such a backlash in the show, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the plan. I could see Martin being like, "Yep, no, not going to do that anymore." So yeah, I think potentially Jaime goes back to King's Landing, perhaps after the Sept of Baelor thing, and then kills her. Because it's Mad King 2, Mad Queen. There's a classic theory. Or perhaps that doesn't happen. Maybe he comes back before the King's Landing plot is wrapped up. Maybe Cersei escapes, which we'll look at in future theories later on in the stream. And then when they meet up or whatever, I don't know. But my gut feeling is that the next time they meet will be the end of both of their stories and lives. But if it's not, if it's Jaime goes back to King's Landing while all the shenanigans are ongoing and Aegon's getting closer and so on, then I think we could see maybe a sort of dramatic collapse of the relationship. More than it's ever been before, where Jaime has that moment where he throws the letter and asking for help in the fire. He will come back, and then the relationship will officially be dead. I just can't see the idea. I just can't see Jaime and Cersei sort of getting back together. And I get it. I get the whole, they're both fucked up. It's a toxic relationship. They might, with all the traumatic stuff going on, they might fall back into it. But I just no. It's too late for that. It would feel like regression. And arcs aren't a straight line in the air. Sometimes people regress and progress, and they dip and they blah blah blah. It's complex, but I don't want Jaime going back to just being a Cersei simp. Okay. What's the chat been on about? Cool. Early on, it's everyone calling me late. I'm like 2 minutes late. People lose their mind. The late Lord Haven. Carl says, quite busy this weekend, in quotation marks, because that's what I said, equals hot date, winky face. I am, in fact, going on a date with Quinn the GM this weekend. Will Cersei... Carl also says, will Cersei lose her foot as Jaime lost his hand, thereby making their birth-like death impossible? Seems a very Gurmy thing to do from a symbolism poetic... Oh, yeah, the idea that Jaime and Cersei... Jaime was holding onto Cersei's foot as they were born into the world. And as I said before, the classic line of, we came into the world together, we'll leave it together, kind of thing. So if Jaime's lost the hand that held onto her, maybe Cersei loses the foot. And so, okay, maybe. I don't know what circumstance or situation would cause Cersei to lose a foot. Is that a punishment? Gets her foot cut off? I'm not sure about that. I cannot believe Robert Strong even losing, because that man is a monster times 2. Even Bronn won't handle it. Oh, we'll be talking about Bronn later. Cole says, Cersei will definitely trigger the wildfire somehow. I kind of liked how everyone got nuked at the Sept. Great way to get rid of lots of NPCs at once. Yeah, like I said, I'm in two minds about it. I think it could work, but it'd have to be done well, because it wasn't done well in the show. Ivar says, I can't see Cersei escaping without help. Who would help her? Oh, I'm going to tell you later on. If she escapes, someone's going to help her. I'll tell you later on. Callum said, Cersei is the perfect balance of wit, malice and sympathy to make her both incredibly amusing and incredibly hateable at the same time. Also, Lena Headey's performance definitely helped her image. Yes, well, not just Lena Headey's performance, but the writing of Cersei. In the show, she's way more sympathetic. She's not the one who has Robert's bastards hunted down. That was in the show. That's Joffrey. Not outwardly emotional, but it is quite a deep chat with Catelyn in season 1 about the show-only stillborn baby with black hair, her only child with Robert in the show. And yeah, we just see more of her, and she is just more sympathetic. She's not as villainous and cold in the show as she is in the books. In fact, yeah, she's very different. She is very different. Even in terms of looks. So I say of the Lannisters, the two that look perfect are Tywin. Charles Dance's Tywin looks perfect, minus the facial hair, right? He hasn't got Tywin's mutton chops, and then Nikolai Coster-Waldau, he's a handsome man, good jaw. When he had blonde hair before his hair went brown for some reason, with the blonde hair, yeah, he looks good. Lena Headey looks very different to how I imagine Book Cersei. Book Cersei's a lot more. She's suddenly a lot more sort of sexual and sensual, and she used that to her advantage. In the show, Cersei never really delves into her sexuality. She never really uses sex for anything outside of manipulating Jaime. So she's a lot more sexy in the books, I'd say, in that regard. Bum ba bum. This one could even if Marjorie loses her trial, I cannot imagine Mace accepting it. Yeah, that's a good point. Flippy Dippy Doo, who is also a patron of mine. Shout out to my boy Flippy. I think the Tyrells are in too deep with the Lannisters to switch to Aegon, especially with the potential friends in the Reach and Randall's possible defection. Yes, I agree. I don't think the Tyrells are going to switch sides at all. I think they are in too deep. And, Friends in the Reach doesn't extend to the Tyrells, because I think the person who says Friends in the Reach, or someone who talks about the idea of the Golden Company and Team Aegon having allies in the Reach, they talk about the Tyrells negatively, which sort of implies that the Tyrells aren't in on it and probably won't be in on it. And those who side with them, some suspect House Tarly, House Rowan maybe, will probably be made the new Lord Paramount. Because I've talked about this before, Aegon swooping in and then a potential bunch of Lord Paramounts. So you could have Edric Storm, Robert's bastard, acknowledged noble on both sides, bastard son of Robert, could become Edric Baratheon, because he's currently hiding out in Lys. He could be Edric Baratheon and made Lord of Storm's End by Aegon. Tyrek Lannister, kidnapped from the riot, could be brought in, made Lord of Castle Rock. Major Lord in the Reach could defect and be made Lord Paramount of the Reach, maybe Randall Tarly. Makes more sense, right? Because we don't know much about Mathis Rowan, so that'd be a bit random, whereas Randall Tarly, we know about him. Oh, that could be a good video idea. Sort of like the south of Westeros under the rule of Aegon. Under the rule of young Griff. His Lord Paramounts. He's got Duran, Randall Tarly, Tyrek, Edric Storm / Edric Baratheon. Then in the Vale, what have you got? Maybe Sweet Robin / Harold Harding. In the Riverlands, Edmure Tully. Because Edmure takes over again after the Vale invasion, where Littlefinger invades the Riverlands with Vale forces, Frey Civil War. Oh god, I'm going on a tangent. It's all collapsing. Another airplane going by. Tarilla says, blowing up the Sept of Baelor, if that happens in the books, will be used by Aegon to win the small folk over. Yeah, everything, all of the insane paranoia and stupidity and malice coming from Cersei is there to rapidly destabilise the political situation to justify Aegon coming in out of nowhere and genuinely winning, without it feeling too kind of plot armory, too bullshit. Okay, so next up we're going to look at the next theories will focus on Sir Robert Strong. The next one being, let's have a look. Cersei orders Sir Robert Strong to kill Bronn. Because someone mentioned Bronn earlier. Okay, I will be back in a couple of minutes. Chat amongst yourselves and I guess chat about this theory. Right, I'm back. Thanks for being patient. So, Cersei hates Bronn. Bronn is, of course, a close ally of Tyrion. Not so much of a friend that he was willing to fight for him against the Mountain, but he's still friends with him. He's married to Lolis Stokeworth, and when Lolis gave birth to a bastard, he named the bastard Tyrion, which pissed off Cersei massively. Yeah, that was I think that made me laugh out loud when I read that in the book. Because in the last couple of books, Bronn has been off page, just like chilling, just trolling. Cersei wants him dead, but the attempt to kill him backfires, and he ends up killing the husband of, I believe, Felice Stokeworth instead, and then Cersei ends up giving Lady Stokeworth to Qyburn to experiment on because she's so frustrated with him, but of course, in doing so, Lolis Stokeworth, Bronn's wife, becomes the new Lady of Stokeworth, and so now Bronn is basically Lord of Stokeworth. So this cutthroat became a knight, and now is somehow a lord. Lord Bronn of House Blackwater, which is pretty cool. So the idea here is that Cersei will go, okay, I need to test out this Robert Strong, see if he's truly loyal to me, see how strong he is, because he's probably stronger than the Mountain, right? Because there's some magic involved. There's some, maybe not magic, but like science, some necromantic bullshit. So test your loyalty, test your strength, go and kill Bronn for me. Which will sort of call back to Bronn not wanting to fight the Mountain for Tyrion. Because he's like, no, the Mountain's too good for me. And so we could have a scene where, well, it would probably happen off screen, wouldn't it? But we'd hear that Sir Robert Strong hunts down Bronn and kills him. So is this going to happen? Well, how can this possibly happen when we know that Bronn will be Lord of Highgarden at the end? Am I right, guys? No. I don't think it's going to happen because I think there's way too much for Bronn to do, I think. I think he's fun as a background character who is gradually rising through the ranks. To cut it short would be a bit disappointing. Plus, Cersei needs Robert Strong with her in King's Landing, right? She's kind of busy right now. She can't just be like, oh, leave my side, my sworn protector, while I'm in this viper's nest, and kill Bronn. She's petty enough to do that, and stupid enough, but I don't think so. I do want to see Bronn rise through the ranks. Not in a stupid way like in a show where it's, oh, you're a knight? Okay, you're a peasant knight. You can be Lord of Highgarden and Lord Paramount of the Reach because we said so. Like, what? It's so weird because everyone thought he was going to be in the show. Sorry, don't want to go on a tangent or a rant again. But everyone was like, oh, Bronn's going to become Lord of the Twins. And everyone was complaining how stupid that would be. Because you had Arya kill apparently every single male Frey. And then he was like, you promised me a castle. You promised me a castle. And a highborn beauty for a wife, as Bronn said. And so... he was going, you promised me a castle, I want double. Oh yeah, that's it. Tyrion always promised to give Bronn double what anyone else offered. So he's like, you've offered me a castle. If you want me to not shoot you with this crossbow, give me double. And everyone was theorizing, oh, it's all going to be about the twins are unoccupied now. Bronn, you can have the twins because that's 2 castles. That's double. There we go. And it'll be a callback. And everyone was sort of complaining like, oh, how can he be elevated to be Lord of the Twins? It's even bigger. Oh, it's even bigger than that because it was Highgarden. Just because I was sitting there like, I went along with the theory. I went, oh, I bet this is so dumb. He's going to get the twins, isn't he? And he's going to collect the toll because he likes money, blah, blah, blah. House Blackwater of the twins. And then they're just like, how about Highgarden? I was like, sorry? Where did that come from? At that point, they just stopped caring. I think they stopped sort of giving a shit about that side of Game of Thrones, the political side, the realism there. And I'd stopped being invested, so I just didn't care. I was just like, oh, whatever. Sure, Bronn, Lord of Highgarden. But I like him growing over time. Because George R. Martin said Bronn was originally just supposed to be... I think I said this in my last live stream, right? Bronn was just going to be a random character who helps Tyrion. He's going to be, okay, I need someone to fight for Tyrion. How about this sellsword who's going along with them? Boom. And then, because he's a gardener, oh, damn, they've got a rapport. Maybe Tyrion should bring him back to King's Landing. And then as he writes, naturally, Bronn just has a bigger role and becomes a proper character. And I think he is on an upward trajectory in the feudal system. He's just a common sellsword. Then he became a knight. Then he was married to a lady. The second daughter. The younger sister of a lady who had been, R-worded 100 times during the riot in King's Landing and had a bastard, and so within the nasty view of the nobility, she's sort of used goods, right? She's soiled. So I'll marry her off to some knight. But now he's manoeuvred his way into into Lolis, his wife being Lady of Stokeworth, I think, and now he's Lord of Stokeworth. What comes next? I think what comes next is Bronn will side with young Griff, and he will be a young Griff ally, and his position will be elevated. I don't think it's not going to get anything, it's not going to be too silly, like Lord of Highgarden, but I can see him gradually making his way through, becoming more and more powerful, because, times of war, times of strife, you're going to have these power changes. But anyway, yet another tangent. What was I talking about? Shit. Oh yeah, Cersei orders... So yeah, for that reason, I don't think it's going to happen, because there's interesting stuff for Bronn to do, and it'll be a bit boring if that happens. So I'm going to say, nah, it could happen, probably not. Dark. Yeah, it's a bit dark. We like Bronn. He doesn't not deserve it, by the way. He is a bit of a psychopathic sellsword. He literally said to Tyrion, if you paid me enough to kill a baby, yeah, I'd do it. But we like him more than Lancel, so I will say it's darker than Lancel being killed. Next up. Is the audio okay, by the way? Is everything good? Ooh, okay. So, okay. Qyburn controls Robert Strong, Sir Robert Strong, whatever else he is, he's still a knight. Qyburn controls Sir Robert Strong by giving him other prisoners. So this is linked to a post. So let me check that out. Okay, so no, it's linked to a comment that says, he not only created Robert Strong, he controls him somehow. Strong does whatever he's told, presumably, and can be controlled by Qyburn and perhaps Cersei too. What if Qyburn gives the women to Robert Strong as positive reinforcement? Oh, okay, I see. Oh, I've heard about this theory before. The idea that he's a, what do people call it? Like an R-word golem. A flesh golem. Like, Qyburn is, when he was like, oh, I need people to experiment on. Where he didn't take Lady Stokeworth to experiment on her, but to give her to his other experiment, Robert Strong. That he's giving her women. He's giving Robert Strong, or rather, shall I just say, the undead mountain, women to use, and satisfy himself to remain loyal or something. I don't know. It's messed up. It's dark. It's rooted in some creepy, like, necromantic stuff that will never truly be explained. It's a bit edgy. I don't know. I kind of prefer the idea of Qyburn just performing horrible experiments on people. I'm not a fan of him collecting women and like giving them to Robert Strong for his loyalty. That I wouldn't put it past George, but that's just a bit, I don't know. I'm gonna put this. It's holy shit. Is it dark? Yeah, it's dark. It's horrible. I'm gonna put it around here, but I don't think it's gonna happen. But I wouldn't say like no. I put it there. I swear to God, half of these theories are just me trying not to drop the R word so I don't get demonetized. Okay, the next one is... Oh, the final Robert Strong. Ooh. Oh, wait, no, actually, it's not necessarily linked to Robert Strong. It's more about Qyburn. Some of Qyburn's experiments escape. So what is this post about? I can't find it. There we go. Oh, it's from a comment. Okay, I can't find the comment. Oh, it's been deleted. 10 years old, holy shit. Okay, yeah, so the idea here is that Qyburn, because he's experimenting on so many people procured by Cersei, including Lady Stokeworth, that he's creating monsters. And Sir Robert Strong is just one of them. And that during some sort of chaos in King's Landing, maybe a sack by young Griff, maybe after Cersei blows up the set of Baelor and there are mass riots or something, there's some sort of chaos in the Red Keep, and Qyburn's experiments escape from the Black Cells to add to the chaos, to add to the insanity and the horror that these maybe twisted, undead beings or tortured souls or whatever are set loose and go crazy and go everywhere. Maybe. That could be fun. That could be fun. Dark, yes. Yes, it's dark. Could it happen? Maybe. I'd say it's possible. I'm going to put this one... I'm going to put it here. Yeah. There's no reason why it wouldn't happen. That could be quite a fun, dark moment. Ooh, Gate Nerd said, glad to catch this live, love your videos. Thank you, that was very kind of you to say. Are you ever going to set up a Discord? I have a Patreon Discord. I'm not sure how I feel about having a YouTube channel Discord. No, that feels a bit too chaotic for me. But yes, the patrons, every single tier of Patreon allows you Discord access to our special Patreon only Discord. So the lowest tier is £2, which is what's that? $2.50? $3? I'm not sure. So the next theory is, let's do some Tommen theories now. Big T. Big Tom don't play. Oh my god. The first one I read is like, oh. Why are all of these old theories just about sex stuff? Okay, this is also linked to a comment. See, this is I've been I've got a busy weekend, I'm working on a video. Barely had time to prep this. It's madness, it's chaos. You're all so patient. Okay, so let me write it down. So this one is revelation that Joffrey used to torture / molest Tommen. Yeah. Why not? Right? Fuck it. Why not? So the comment says that at some point in Feast for Crows, Tommen says he used to go inside himself when Joffrey would do things to him, and Cersei interrupts him. Oh, yeah, there's a quote here. So here's a direct quote from Feast for Crows. Tommen considered that. I used to go away inside sometimes, he confessed, when Joffrey, Cersei stood over them, the wind whipping her skirts around her legs. Your brother's name was Joffrey. He would never have shamed me. He would never have shamed me so. So I guess the idea is it's not revealed what exactly he's saying. He said when Joffrey used to... I think it's just bullying, you know? When Joffrey used to bully him, be mean to him. I don't think we need it to be sexual. I don't think... Torture? I don't know. We've already got that with Euron. Do we need that as well with Joffrey? Like, we get it. He was evil. I think he was probably horrible to Tommen in ways we don't know. But I hope it's not an implication that Joffrey did that, because like we've already got it with Euron. It feels a bit too much. The whole idea of Joffrey being like, the original idea was that he's just meant to be a spoiled brat. Like, what happens if you get a spoiled bully, a 13-year-old bully who's suddenly put on a throne? That was George's idea, but he went too far with it, I think, and so instead of being bully with unlimited power, it became like an actual just sociopathic kid. And yeah, and because of that, no, we despite his best efforts, we as readers, we don't care when he dies. We're not sad. I don't see it as, oh no, at the end of the day he's just a kid, because he's written like a complete sociopath, not a flawed child. Could it happen? It would be very dark. See, like, in terms of gut feeling, this feels darker than like Cersei blowing up the Sept, even though it doesn't involve any death, but it's up here. I'm gonna say no. Not necessarily because it isn't true, but because I don't think there needs to be a revelation about it. If it is true, I think it's just hinted at, and you know, it's often said that the author should know more than the reader. You know, not everything has to be revealed. You can hint and imply and base things off of facts within the world that you know as the author, but you don't always have to reveal it. So, for example, Roger and Biter. Someone asked George a question about Roger and Biter. He went, "What's their origin story?" And he immediately says, "Well, Roger was a thief whose nose was cut off, and he ran child fighting pits, and Biter was a sort of a feral child that he raised, who's sort of his feral henchman." And that was probably an idea he had in his head, but at no point in the story is that explained, because it doesn't need to be. There's not going to be a bit where Roger's like, "Wow, this reminds me of the time I ran a fighting pit. Remember that, Biter?" You know? So it could just be something that did happen that George has in his head, and he's like, well, there's never going to be a point where I reveal it, but I can hint it. But yeah, it does feel like an extra level of, wow, look how evil Joffrey was, that we don't need. Okay, let's see if we can get a less sexual one. So, oh, for fuck's sake, oh, no. Oh, okay. This is a not safe for work stream. Cersei will seduce Tommen. Dear Lord. Okay, so Cersei will seduce Tommen. This is where the viewership plunges. So the full thing here says Cersei will begin a sexual relationship with Tommen in a crazed attempt to bring her son closer to her, so as to keep him safe. Let's treat this one seriously. Oh shit. Oh, okay. Let's take this one seriously. Let's humour this one. So Cersei is becoming increasingly crazier and more paranoid, and this is only going to ramp up after Varys kills Pycelle and kills Kevin with a crossbow, and then is stabbed by children. And the implication, of course, is that it's Tyrion who did it. Tyrion came in with a crossbow and then stabbed him to death. And so Cersei's going crazy with paranoia. She's paranoid about the Tyrells. She's paranoid about Taena Merryweather. She's paranoid about Tyrion, who isn't even there. And so in her madness, she will want to get closer to Tommen. And, sort of, I need to protect you, I got the prophecy said all my children would die and Joffrey's dead, and I don't know whether maybe by this point Myrcella has died from her wounds. You're the last one left, and her obsession with this sort of seeing, her obsession with incest all comes from narcissism. She sees Jaime as the ideal her with a cock, who she wants to be. It's the closest she can get to having sex with herself. She sees children as extensions of herself. So perhaps it will be this sort of fucked up, incesty, roundabout way of, you are me in the same way Jaime is me, and to keep you safe, I will... Please, God, no. Please, no. This is one of the ones that, this hits your gut. This makes you feel gross. Okay, this comes from a comment. So let me see what the origin is. Oh, okay, so there's another 8-year-old thread called The Winds of Winter, What's the Worst That Can Happen? And the person said, someone commented, Cersei begins a sexual relation with Common, blah, blah. Oh my god, Tommen's really into it. And it eclipses stamping letters as his favourite part of being king. Oh, why? What? What? I didn't even know that was an addition from the original comment. Tommen's into it. He's 10. That's hot. Oh, bro. Stop. I'm getting rid of this one. Is it gonna happen? See, the worst part is that I can't confidently say no. I can't just be like, no, of course it won't happen, because it might do. I'm very unlikely, but not impossible, because it's just not impossible. I'll put it there. It's dark. Wait, is it darker than Qyburn? I have it as dark as Cersei massacring people in the Sept of Baelor. Yeah, I'll put it there. That's. Oh, I want to see the chat. Boombler says, "I'm you writ big, Cersei probably." No. Is that a police alarm in the distance? Oh god, I've been found out. Ah. This is a cool. It's cool that I found another thread though. What's the worst that can happen? It's basically another Dark Theories thread. Let's see if there's another one we can use. Ooh, that's a cool one. Okay. If there's time at the end of this, I might go through these ones for fun. Okay, going back to the main one now. What have we got? Okay. Oh, here's another Tommen one. Not involving sex. So we know that Tyene Sand is going to King's Landing. Nymeria Sand's been sent to represent Doran. Tyene is also tagging along. I don't know whether she's she to try and infiltrate the Faith, right? That's her plan. But the Sand Snakes are wild cards, and they despise the Lannisters. And the theory here is that Tyene, who is a mistress of poison, shall we say, will give... Tyene will... Okay, so there's a theory that Tyene will kill Tommen as a way of getting revenge, but there's a couple ways this could go. So one is Tyene poisons Tommen, which would be pretty dark. But let's go more interesting with it. The post very specifically says Tyene poisons Sir Pounce with basilisk's blood. So is that right? Basilisk's blood? Yes. So in the House of Black and White, Arya learns about all sorts of poisons, including basilisk's. I can't even try saying that 5 times in a row super fast. Basilisk's blood. Basilisk's. Fuck, I can't do it. Anyway, the blood. Arya learns about this blood, which you give it to an animal, the animal goes feral. And in A Clash of Kings, Arya gives a name to Jaqen H'ghar. He says, who is it? Whis, right? Whis is like a horrible servant in Harrenhal who beats her. And so in her anger, and also to kind of test it out a bit, she gives Jaqen H'ghar Whis' name. Kill Whis for me. And the next thing we know, Whis' bulldog, or whatever, hound, goes feral and tears his throat out. And that always stuck with me. I was like, oh damn, how did he do that? And then later in the House of Black and White, Arya discovers a poison that does that. And I was like, oh, that's a nice little callback. So the idea here is that Tyene will poison Sir Pounce, who is one of Tommen's 3 cats. And Sir Pounce will go feral and will lunge at Tommen and will basically tear him to shred. Because Tommen's only a little child. But Sir Pounce will bite and claw and tear him to pieces. Holy shit. Oh my god. The darkness from here does not come from Sir Pounce dying. It comes from... Yeah, people in the chat are acting like Tyene kills Sir Pounce to like as a way of like mentally torturing Tommen, where she can't get away with killing him, so she kills the cats as a kind of fuck you. But no, I'm talking about killing Tommen with cats. Yeah, no, I don't think this is going to happen. But that would be so dark. Oh god, can you imagine it? Death by 1,000 claw cuts. I've got a cat. When she claws once, it fucking hurts. Can you imagine just feral cat going... Ree! That might be the worst cat impression I've ever done. Sorry about the headphone users. Okay. It's dark. Yes, it's horrible. It's Tommen being torn to shreds. Is it going to happen? I would say probably not. Because it's kind of specific. But I like that. I quite like how dark that is. That's a fun dark theory. That's like, ooh. Gold has been his crown, gold will be his shroud. And furry, his killers. See, that also comes from a post. A comment, rather. Okay, so there's a 10-year-old thread called "What's the craziest, most tinfoily idea of theory that you've ever come up with?" And a comment is, Tommen is going to be killed by his cats. Okay, so it goes into more theory. So what I should have done is read this out instead of... This is what happens when I don't prepare, boys. Okay, we know Tommen is likely going to die per the Valonqar prophecy. Tyene's sand is sent to King's Landing, disguised as a scepter. Oberyn taught her about poisons. Tommen cannot be poisoned directly because Boros Blount is his food taster. Okay. And it's mentioned that Tommen sleeps alone in his bedchambers with only his 3 cats. And Jaqen used the blood on Whis' dog. Yeah. Faceless Man training shows that it works on anything warm-blooded. And during Tyrion's King's Landing trial, Pycelle mentions basilisk venom as one of the potions in his chambers. Oh no. At some point the Dornish will declare for Aegon, and when they do it as a parting gift, Tyene will poison Tommen's cats, and all 3 of the cats will tear him to shreds. Okay, that's made it more realistic to me. Knowing that Pycelle has basilisk's blood / venom, and that's like explicitly stated. Oh no. Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on. Okay, okay, so that's all the Tommen one done. Tommen one's done. Next up, we're going to look at the next sort of subcategory is the fall of King's Landing. How will King's Landing fall in relation to young Griff, Aegon, etc.? Where should I put this one? I'm just having a look at something. Okay, I'll do this one next. This is from So this is... I'm not going to put Cersei... Jaime kills Cersei is here, because that's not really a dark theory. That's just sort of a classic theory that everyone talks about. So I'm going to throw in something different. Other way round, Cersei kills Jaime. Because she's so paranoid about the Valonqar prophecy that she thinks, okay, it could be Tyrion, and she thinks Tyrion's in King's Landing, but Jaime's returned and he hates me, it could be him. If I kill both Jaime and Tyrion, then there's no chance I'm going to get killed by a sibling. So she kills Jaime when he returns to King's Landing. I don't think it really works for Jaime's arc to end that way. It could do, though. It could be sort of the end of his redemption, where he chooses not to be with her. Maybe he returns to King's Landing, but he says, I'm not going to side with you. I'm not on your side. And in doing so, he signs his death warrant, but he sort of goes out. He dies with pride. And Cersei killing Jaime is almost like she kills the other half of herself. And I don't know where I'm going with this. Is it going to happen? Probably not. Is it dark? Yeah, because we like Jaime. Let's put it on the same level as Bronn in terms of darkness. And probably not, but it may be. This is all bullshit anyway. The way where I'm placing everything is complete nonsense. But nothing's overlapping like in previous streams. We're getting professional now. Have a bit of water. Next up. Okay, so here's one that's not in the thread. So Fall of King's Landing. Everyone thinks that... Not everyone, but lots of people think Aegon will rock up and in some way or another take King's Landing, be the next king. The story will move on from there. But what if Aegon loses to Cersei? He attacks King's Landing, loses, gets killed, defeated, and Cersei continues being the queen. And it's sort of similar to Game of Thrones, where Cersei stays in power. And maybe after dealing with the White Walkers, Dany and Jon have to deal with Queen Cersei. No. Imagine how pointless that would be if Aegon is set up and he invades and he just loses for Cersei to stay in power. And that she's been ruining everything, destroying the fabric of King's Landing, justifying an invasion, weakening herself and her allies, and it all leads to her miraculously winning, and it was all pointless. Not going to happen. Is it dark? Yeah, because I kind of want Aegon to beat Cersei. I'm going to put it over here. Not going to happen because George is a good storyteller. And something being surprising does not equal good. Next up. Okay. This is a classic. This is from the thread. So, this is basically... This is Aegon and Jon Connington sack King's Landing. So this is... The idea here is that Cersei fucks up so much in King's Landing that the Tyrells abandon her, her allies abandon her. King's Landing becomes an isolated... King's Landing becomes an isolated city, literally and politically, and everything's going to chaos. And Aegon and Jon Con come in with very little resistance, and they sack King's Landing. See, interestingly, and the idea is that it would mirror the sack of King's Landing during Robert's Rebellion, which was performed, ironically, by her own father. Interestingly, this theory came out before. Didn't come out before. But A Dance with Dragons, but it doesn't mention the bells theory. Oh yes, that's what I was going to say. So, obviously, this came out way before season 8 of Game of Thrones. The bells ring, Daenerys goes crazy. No one quite knows why. But in A Dance with Dragons, it's established that Jon Con lost at the Battle of the Bells, and he's sort of traumatized by that loss because he thinks the war could have been won in favour of Rhaegar had Jon Con not failed, and that Rhaegar's death, his beloved Rhaegar, and his whole life and everything was ruined by Robert's success. And he could have been beaten at the Battle of the Bells, and the sound of the bells haunts him. And so the idea is that the bells will ring in King's Landing, and Jon Con will be pushed over the edge, and then he will sack King's Landing in fury, mirroring Tywin. There might be more to that theory beyond just that, but yeah. King's Landing will be sacked. Let me have a look. Is there anything more to this? Yeah, Aegon's armies of mercenaries viciously sack the city. Oh, it's claiming vengeance for Tywin's sack. So it's kind of... does that make sense? Claiming vengeance for Tywin doing it? I guess it's just a kind of... Yeah. It was... yeah, because it's not really revenge on the city. It's just revenge on the leadership, saying, hey, you overthrew Aerys and Rhaegar and you did this to the city, so we're going to do it to you. And also, they're mercenaries. Good way to get some loot, and so on. And, as Jorah says, you put a sword in a man's hand, it turns him into a beast. Could this happen? Yeah. I think it definitely could. Another sack could happen. Lots of history repeating itself in the world of Westeros. And the whole bells thing, Jon Con being traumatized by the bells, and then in the show the bells ring and Daenerys destroys everything, is that I do think there could be a connection there. It could be a plot point that D&D heard, and they went, okay, well, we're not doing Jon Con, but we like the idea of the bells of surrender ringing, but then things going to shit anyway. But they decided to do Daenerys destroying everything instead of Jon Con sacking everything. So I kind of want to put this in a, yeah, this is probably going to happen. But at the same time, it goes against the idea that I like of Aegon coming across as the handsome hero, where all of his allies are the good guys, and he's a handsome lad, and he defeats the evil Mad Queen, and then Daenerys and her allies, twisted dwarf on her shoulder, eunuchs, savages, a bastard king in the north if Jon Snow becomes king, like in the show. So it sort of becomes good versus evil, where the side we followed, Daenerys and so on, and Jon, they're seen by outsiders as villains, while Aegon and his lot are seen as the traditional heroes, and sort of plays with some fun ideas and tropes. But them sacking King's Landing would ruin that. Like, I think then people would just be like, oh, you've just... Or maybe not, because it didn't make things any... It didn't ruin things for Tywin, did it? Just made him come across as more fearsome. Okay, I think it is likely to happen. Something about the bells, man. Something about the bells, like... There's got to be something there. So, they will sack King's Landing. Yeah. Is it dark? Yes, it is. Another sack. Where should I put it? There, who cares? Next up. So, during the sack... So, this is an extension of the sack. This is a big sack. This is a big, bulging sack. Next up, during the sack... Oh, this is a double whammy. Oh, wait, it's two separate things. Okay, so this is Jon Con kills Tommen during the sack. The sack of King's Landing. I'll put that the second sack of King's Landing. So I guess as revenge for Elya's children, because Jon Con loved Rhaegar, as revenge for Aegon and Rhaenys. Well, sorry, not Aegon, because Aegon is with them. My bad. Definitely not a Blackfire. In revenge for Rhaenys, being brutally murdered and Elia Martell being brutally murdered, Jon Con will get revenge and say, well, I'm going to kill your kid as well. I'm going to kill Tommen for what your father did to Rhaegar's daughter. And maybe son, depending on your thoughts about young Griff. Is there any more to this theory beyond just Jon Con being in sort of PTSD mode? Let's have a look. Oh, and there's another part to this theory, actually. Okay. Let me have a look. Oh yeah, so they're talking about all the... There are so many theories you could do for Tommen dying. We talked about the Sand Snakes. Could be Cersei killing him, motherly angst. Could be the High Sparrow. Oh, actually, that's a good point. If Cersei is found guilty of incest, then they're like, well, Tommen's an abomination. Do they just automatically kill him? Holy shit. Ah, here we go. Okay. So it's linked to... Okay. So it's linked to Balerion. There was a cat called Balerion. He was a little kitten. And... was the kitten of... The favourite kitten of Rhaenys Targaryen. I believe. Who was, Rhaegar's daughter. And then she was stabbed to death by Sir Amory Lorch on the orders of Tywin Lannister. And so the idea here is that there's a bit of a parallel with the young prince instead of a princess with his favourite cat. Okay. So yeah, it's very much linked to just copying the first sack of King's Landing. So I think Tommen can go in a load of different ways. This mirroring the death of Aegon Rhaenys. Yeah, I can see that happening. Actually. I won't put it as likely as a sack, but I'll put it below the sack. And is it dark? Where have I put all of the poor Tommen stuff? Let's put it here, because there's a gap there. Okay. What next? Oh dear. Oh no. This will be a quick one. So Sir Pounce is killed during the sack of King's Landing in the chaos. The darkest of theories, and you know it's going to happen. Right there in the corner. You know it's going to happen. Okay, here's a more serious one. Oh, where did this one come from? Oh, where did it go? There we go. Because some of this stuff it's a post of dark theories and it links to other posts and comments it's inspired by. I just want to make sure I've fully got the original essence. Ooh, okay. So Sir Robert Strong will recreate the first sack during the second sack. What do I mean by this? Well, during the first sack of King's Landing, what does the Mountain do? He scales the wall of Maegor's Holdfast with Amory Lorch and others, and while Amory kills Rhaenys, Gregor Clegane kills Tommen. No, Tommen. Oh, I've ruined it. I was trying to do a dramatic build-up. You know what I'm going to say, don't you? He kills baby Aegon, smashes his head against a wall, and then our words, Elia Martell, and then kills her. So the idea is that Zombie Mountain, Sir Robert, will go crazy, because he's kind of a crazy undead guy, that during the sack he will just go crazy and he will have flashbacks, and he will fulfill the orders Tywin gave him all those years ago, again in a confused fit of rage or whatever, and he will smash Tommen's head against a wall like how he killed baby Aegon, and then he will force himself on Cersei and kill her, smash her head in, like he did with Elia Martell. And it's the classic history repeating itself. Another sack happens, the Mountain, disguised as someone else, once again does what he did last time, but against the wrong people. So Tommen gets smushed and Cersei gets... yeah. I don't think this one's going to happen, which is a big shock, because I've said that about pretty much all of them. But I quite like this one in terms of, like, it's dark, it's horrible, but I do kind of like it. Like, it's fun dark, you know. It's like ugh, imagine that. He just goes this like terrifying giant zombie loses his mind and he's like, oh, the sack of King's Landing, what did Tywin tell me to do? And he just does the same thing, and it's, you know. But then again, I'm not the biggest fan of the whole history repeating. I quite, it works in some instances, but I don't like when it's constantly like, yeah, it can be done too much is what I'm trying to say. Another sack happening, calling back to the original sack, and happening for a reason and almost being inspired by it, I get. But doing the whole sort of everything in history happens again because history repeats itself, I don't like that, because I don't like the idea of history repeating. It doesn't really. That's not a good take, in my opinion. And a lot of the times, George repeats himself, and it's not on purpose, and then people do it anyway, because loads of theorists do the whole George is a 3D chess master, you know, even though he's explicitly said when he does stuff when he talks about Westerosi history, a lot of the time he's not foreshadowing or he's not repeating himself and or whatever, that he's just trying to make something new, and if themes or characters or plot points repeat, it's an accident. He literally said that. So for example, during Aegon's conquest, the Vale is ruled by a woman. During the Dance of the Dragons, the Vale is ruled by a woman. During the first part of A Song of Ice and Fire, the Vale is ruled by a woman. I don't think that's a deliberate thing. Like, history rhymes. I think it's just he has that idea in his head and he's kind of reused it by accident. But anyway, coming back to this, the King of Tangents strikes again. Coming back to this, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? It'll be dark. Very dark. Put it up here, actually. I could say maybe, maybe not. I'll put it in the middle. I don't know. Bum bum bum. What's next? Elia Martell. You killed her children. Okay, so this is one that I've thrown in, which is everyone thinks her story will end at King's Landing, but who's Cerise? Cersei escapes King's Landing and becomes an endgame villain. So this is, she doesn't meet her fate in King's Landing. She flees to Casterly Rock, and George has confirmed we will see Casterly Rock in the Winds of Winter, or at least in the future. There we go. So there are two possibilities here. One is that she escapes to give Aegon and his crew more to do in the south. So while the Long Night is, if we believe that the Long Night will be restricted to the north, and then we're going to have a whole battle of Daenerys and Jon versus the White Walkers, and then no one believes them, and then that causes Daenerys to be more brutal in the south or whatever. If we're going by that logic, then perhaps Cersei continues as a foil for Aegon, and after taking King's Landing, Aegon and the crew then have to go to Casterly Rock and continue to fight this evil villainess. Or Aegon is defeated in some way and Cersei just continues being a villain for Daenerys and Jon or something. I don't know. There's a third way this can go, which I'll talk about later, and includes a certain Ironborn. But for now, her escaping King's Landing, and like continuing to be a villain. I think her story kind of needs to end at King's Landing. It will be stretching it out for the sake of stretching it out, or maybe letting her live and hold up in Castle Rock, and Castle Rock is besieged, and she kind of stays there, so that Tyrion, because if Tyrion needs to push Daenerys to do more brutal stuff, where's his motivation? When he has motivation, but he has motivation beyond Cersei, but she's a huge part of it. So what happens when if Cersei dies? What's Tyrion going to do? Is he just sort of going to... I don't know. I feel like she kind of needs to be alive. No, what just happened? Oh no. Did I just disconnect? Am I still streaming? Am I still streaming? I said my OBS disconnected. Oh no, it's back. Am I here? Guys, am I still streaming? Yes, I think I am. I was so panicked there. Whew. Okay. Again, I don't know with this one, which seems to be my response for everything. I'm going to say it's kind of meh. I'm not a fan of it. I like her ending being at King's Landing. I also like her surviving for Tyrion's arc, but I'm going to put it kind of probably not going to happen, and it's kind of meh. Okay, now the final part of this to wrap up. Something that's not in the thread, which is Cersei marrying Euron Greyjoy. So that would be the dark theories. Let's see, Cersei marries Euron. I'll put it that way around. When we talk about reach theories in future streams, then we'll talk about other marriage candidates for Euron. But just for now, I'll talk about Cersei. Quinn GM has a good video about this, about potential brides for Euron Greyjoy. So in the Forsaken chapter, Euron Greyjoy has nasty vision of the Iron Throne and Euron with tentacles everywhere, blah blah. And there's a woman by Euron's side, and this is how she's described. Beside him stood a shadow in woman's form, long and tall and terrible, her hands alive with pale white fire. And some people think this could be Cersei, because of course she's obsessed with wildfire. Maybe she blows some stuff up. And more importantly, Euron and Cersei get together in the show, which may have been one of the few scraps of notes from George that they went, hey, let's roll with this one. Where Euron is going on about, I want to marry Daenerys, I want to seduce Daenerys, blah, blah. But again, characters telling us what they're going to do, probably not going to happen. So perhaps we're going to be surprised. Euron and Cersei will team up and become a villainous duo, right? You know, I was talking about Cersei being an endgame villain. What if Euron and Cersei team up? The Mad Queen and the Dark Lord. Yeah. So this theory can kind of be split into two. One is them being endgame villains, and one is just them marrying and Euron moving to King's Landing before Aegon attacks. Maybe Euron and Cersei destroy King's Landing together. So Cersei's obsessed with wildfire, she wants to blow everything up, and Euron says, oh, I can use this as a sacrifice. Or maybe they win against Aegon and continue to rule King's Landing. Maybe, someone asked me earlier, how would Cersei flee King's Landing? Maybe Euron helps her. Maybe Euron helps her flee and she comes to Old Town, if Euron's holding out in Old Town or wherever. Actually, no, I'll combine this with the endgame. So maybe they will flee to Old Town as the new villains. Because I've talked before about... Wait, have I? I'm not sure. No, I know. In my extended Hightower video for patrons, I talk about this, I think. Right? Yes. The idea of Euron attacking Old Town and seizing the Hightower as his tower. And so, you know, this nexus of academia and religion and trade, he burns down, you know, logic, rationality, religion, he destroys it, and he becomes a Dark Lord, and he turns it into his own personal Isengard or Mordor, and he's in his evil high tower, and maybe there's a glass candle there and it's burning and so on. You know, big dark lordship. And so maybe he will marry Cersei, she'll flee King's Landing, come to him, and they will both be holed up in Old Town, the Mad Queen and evil Euron. And again, I don't know, villains for Aegon, future villains for Aegon, future villains for Daenerys, and I don't know where it could go. I still think her end sort of needs to come in King's Landing, but it would be cool if she carried on and just became more villainous and married Euron. But I don't think she's a likely candidate for Euron. Also, Hands Alive with Pale Fire. She's associated with green wildfire. Pale Fire doesn't really work in that sense. I don't know. Wildfire's not ever described as pale, is it? Just green and emerald. So Cersei marries Euron. I'll just clarify, and they become endgame villains. I'm gonna say probably. See, I was going to say probably not, but then also the show. That's like a big thing that happens in the show. Why would that happen in the show? Beyond D&D just being like, oh, we want to use Euron, where shall we use him? Have him team up with Cersei, streamline things a bit. Oh, I don't know. Oh yeah, someone says, Flippy Dippy Doo, my boy, says Cersei could meet Euron at Castle Rock. All the Iron Island. Oh yeah, the Iron Islands and Westlands are next to each other. Yeah, that's true. Maybe Euron and Cersei hold up in Casterly Rock, and then the Westerlands and the Iron Islands join forces, and you have like this four-way thing where you have like Aegon holding the Crownlands and Dorne and the Stormlands and part of the Reach, but then Euron holds the other part of the Reach, and Cersei holds the Westerlands and Euron holds the Iron Islands, and then perhaps Littlefinger holds the Vale and the Riverlands, or I don't know. Release the fucking book, George. Release the book. Carl says, green wildfire, red mailfire, white Euron fire. Those are the colours of the books, along with black. I'll talk about this more when I talk about the Reach in another stream. But other candidates for Euron's marriage could be Melora the Mad Maid, could also be Melisandre, because George commissioned a miniature, because he's a nerd, he commissioned a bunch of miniatures. Perhaps we know that George commissioned a miniature for Melisandre. He commissioned two, one her being red with red flames in her hand, but also her with a sort of pale blue outfit with like blue flame in her hand, and everyone's like, is that just a cool reversal thing that he wanted to do, or is that something that happens in the future? Does Melisandre sort of become like reverse Red Priestess, where she becomes a priestess of the Great Other and she serves Euron and she marries Euron, and it becomes a weird kind of, maybe. Or perhaps the most sensible thing that's been said so far is by Mad in the comments, who says, we've had too much time to make theories. That's true. Okay, I'm going to put this, where should I put this? Okay, there, because I accidentally let go of the mouse. Why not? Okay, one more theory, I think. One more cheeky little theory. What's the time? Let me just check the time. Okay, I do have to go soon. There was that other thread that had some cool stuff that I haven't. Okay, I'll do that another time. So, one more theory, which is based on a single quote from the Forsaken sample chapter. In fact, it's the line directly after it describes Euron with the tentacle face on the Iron Throne, and then a tall woman with pale flame in her hands. It's directly after that. This is the quote. Dwarves capered... Actually, let me be dramatic here. Have some water first. Dwarves capered for their amusement, male and female, naked and misshapen, locked in carnal embrace, biting and tearing at each other, as Euron and his mate laughed and laughed and laughed. So, could be symbolic, but if Euron does marry Cersei, and she is the woman with pale fire in her hands, and they are watching dwarves capering for their amusement, male and female, biting and tearing at each other, perhaps that represents Tyrion and Penny. Perhaps it's not a metaphor or anything. It is literal. Tyrion and Penny literally get captured by Euron and Cersei and are tortured and are forced to fight / be in a carnal embrace, or whatever. So Euron and Cersei torture Tyrion and Penny. It's dark. It's one way to interpret the prophecy, but it also got you thinking, how is that going to happen? How are Tyrion and Penny going to get to King's Landing? Like, I'm not sure about that. will Penn even last that long? I don't know. I like the idea, but there's a lot of prophecy stuff that involves very small people, either dwarves or just like small men, like having sex and eating things and being crazy, and it sort of represents. It usually represents something bigger. So, for example, in A House of the Undying, Daenerys sees a bunch of small, like gremlin men with sharp teeth, eating, and R-wording a naked woman, and the idea is that these 5 gremlin things are supposed to be the 5 kings, and it's a war of the 5 kings destroying Westeros, the Ladies of Westeros. So I think this Nightshade dream, a vision that Aeron is having, is probably similarly going to be somewhat metaphorical. So Euron and whatever woman he's with, watching these 2 dwarves fight, I think is probably represents. I'm not sure. Oh, a woman dwarf and a man dwarf fighting each other. That could represent Aegon and Daenerys. Ooh, maybe that's Aegon and Daenerys, or it's Jon and Daenerys. But it's like 2 sides, 2 factions fighting each other. And the locked in a carnal embrace could be the fact that they're Targaryens, they're related. Again, could be Jon and Daenerys or Aegon and Daenerys, which implies Euron will survive long enough for a new Dance with Dragons, Aegon versus Daenerys. And Euron and whoever he has as his wife will sort of be watching on the chaos from afar. So perhaps Cersei escapes King's Landing, joins up with Euron, they become evil Dark Lord and Dark Lady. And then there's a dance with dragons between Aegon and Daenerys, and that's what the fighting dwarves represent in the vision. Or it could be thousands of other things, because there's so much going on in the books, and there's so much cryptic shit, and it's so annoying. See, that's what annoys me about the later 2 books. Load of great stuff there. But lots of overhated stuff as well. But I can't stand it when there's constant riddles and mysteries and cryptic stuff being thrown, like shoved down your throat, but nothing's being answered. You have to do both. If you are going, what you need to do is if you're going to throw in new mysteries, you need to give the reader some satisfaction. Answer some mysteries, then throw some more. Answer a mystery, here's a couple more. Oh, I've revealed a couple of those, but there's a one from before you still haven't worked out, and there's a new one here. But especially Dance with Dragons is just constantly like riddles and mysteries and clues, and it's just building up to the point where it's like, if there's too much, then I stop caring, especially in Marine. If there's so much prophecy and saying random stuff, I just stop caring. Another thing I wanted to rant about, because I'm getting known for my rants, another thing I wanted to complain about was the Valonqar prophecy. Maybe I should save this for another time, but I genuinely hate the Valonqar prophecy. I think it's so pointless. Cersei being motivated by, and I get that. Okay, let me get my ADHD brain in order. Let me get my thoughts in order. I understand that prophecy is fun to write about, and the sort of Greek tragedy of the self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah, it's fun. It's satisfying, right? Trying so hard to avoid a prophecy that you cause it, which is what Cersei's doing. She's trying so hard to avoid it, she's causing it. But I really don't like it as a justification for the way she acts, because we already have that. It's clearly a retcon. In the first 3 books, we know why she is the way she is. She is the daughter of a sociopathic narcissist, Tywin. She's taken after him. She's a narcissist. She loves herself. She loves her brother and her children as extensions of herself. She hates Tyrion for this narcissistic reason. He is ugly. He is gross. He is weird. He is ruining the Lannister image. She's copying her father and hating him. Plus, on a more emotional level, her mother died in childbirth. Tywin blames him for that. So does Cersei. And Cersei hates her right back. So we know why she's horrible towards Tyrion. We know why she's a nasty person. And there's an interesting, that she is a misogynist. That she's like, if I was a man, everyone would treat me with respect. I would be the new Tywin Lannister. I wish I was Jaime. One of the reasons she has sex with Jaime is she wants to be Jaime. She's like, I'm a genius, I'm amazing, but I'm held back by this world because I'm a woman, which is true. But she also hates other women. she thinks every other woman is like a slut or an idiot or incompetent. So she sort of acts like, I'm the only woman who's good enough to be as good as a man, and I'm better than most men. So it's not really about her being a woman, it's more that she thinks that she's amazing, although she is genuinely held back because she's a woman. So it's all very complex, right? But what I don't like is the sort of, that's the setup for her character. That's who she is. Then throwing in, oh, by the way, there's this prophecy, and the reason she acts the way she does is because as a kid she was told that her younger brother would kill her, and that's why she hates Tyrion. Really? Do we need that? Oh, why is she paranoid? Oh, because there's a prophecy that says her children will die. No, she's not. She can just be paranoid because she's paranoid, because it's been set up. Oh, I'm not a fan of it. It feels like a retcon, and it feels really so unnecessary. And I was just disappointed by it. I was like, I don't think we need this. And I really didn't like the revelation that she pushed her friend down a well, because then it's like, okay, so Cersei hasn't become twisted over time. She hasn't like been raised by a narcissist and spoiled and been beautiful and given everything, but also gone through the horrible experience of being married and abused by Robert. And it's just sort of, her life has shaped her in this way. Some of it's her fault, a lot of it is outside of her hands. But then this revelation is just like, oh no, she was actually just a sociopath since she was a child because she murdered her best friend. And it's like, no, this is a double whammy. The Valonqar prophecy and then her killing her childhood friend is just a double whammy of unnecessarily throwing extra stuff in that lessens her character. And not many people talk about that, so it's probably not a popular opinion to have, and that's fair. Everyone can have, have different opinions, interpretations. I just really hate the Valonqar prophecy. It's so unnecessary. Anyway, Euron and Cersei torture Tyrion and Penny. No, but dark. I'll put it there. Who cares? Right. Before I wrap up, let's go through the chat. Only one super chat? This is outrageous. How dare you? See, it's always funny, like, I've got 90 people watching. I get 90 people watching here, and I've got one super chat. Last week, I had 90 people watching, and I had, like, a bunch of super chats out of nowhere. I wonder whether it's based on the time, based on the day, based on whether I bring it up. That's very interesting. Because, like, I re-listened to my last stream, and what I do with my ADHD brain is I'm constantly repeating myself. I sort of, things run on a loop, so you probably noticed I talk a lot, right? I repeat myself a lot. And I do that for everything. But when I listened to my past live stream, I kept repeating, talking about super chats, and that's just because I do that for everything. But it came across as, like, begging. It came across as, like, reminding you constantly, and it sounded like I was saying, keep sending me money, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cringy. So I was like, okay, I don't want to keep repeating super chats because it comes across as a bit disrespectful, so I'm not talking about it. But because I'm not bringing it up much, not many super chats, so I'm wondering, yeah, I am wondering. But also, super chats are for when you have like hundreds of live viewers per stream and you can't keep up. I can still kind of keep up with the chat. Super chats will come in when I literally can't. Okay, let's have a look through the chat. See if there's any fun comments you guys have said. Bronn will complete his destiny in becoming Lord of Highgarden and Master of Coin. I can't believe they made him Master of Coin in the show. It's like, do you know anything about money or finance? He's like, well, I get paid a lot. You're hired. Bran has hired you. The man who can see everything throughout time and space has hired you. What's to keep Bronn from... Torilla says, I don't know how Tommen would get his head dashed against a wall, like mirroring baby Aegon. He's too old for that. Too old for that? You don't have to be any particular age for an 8-foot zombie to smash your head against a wall. Yeah, Carl says, Bronn was originally just the brawn to Tyrion's brain, but the bants were too good to ignore. See, that's the thing that a lot of people, I think, who aren't necessarily writers, who the sort of people who think that George plans literally everything out like 3D chess, where it's like, no, a lot of the time, like, as someone who writes, occasionally, not as much as I should, sometimes when you're writing and you do the Gardner approach, it's like things just pop into your head and then you run with them and you don't know where they're going and you don't know what the plan is, and maybe this character's going to die like very soon, or maybe he'll end up making it to the end and you don't know, but you're just running with it. And he does that a lot, and people think, oh, well, this character is clearly foreshadowing this, or this was and it's like sometimes I'm sure he just comes up with a character and then goes with the flow. I feel like Qyburn's other experiments lack the build-up for major plot significance, unlike Grayscale. Yeah, that's true. If they were to escape, it would be a bit out of nowhere. Bum, bum. It looks like everyone is responding to that, the cursed Tommen theory. The Cersei Tommen theory that was promised. Callum says, I think the really big issue with a lot of these dark theories is that they misunderstand A Song of Ice and Fire on a very fundamental level. It's an extremely empathetic story. Yes, there's a lot of stuff that's dark for the sake of being dark, although there is a lot of stuff in the story that is gratuitously brutal and dark because it's sort of George's inner horror writer coming out. Like Chiswick and the Mountain Men giving an elaborate story about a gang R-wording an underage girl in detail that's just like not necessary. But it's part of that, horror. He's a horror writer. He thrives on the darker parts. There's a bit in that chat where one of them's like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure she was 18, and another character says, no, she was definitely 13, and it feels very sort of on the nose, like, they're evil. Get it? They're evil, guys. The sack of King's Landing might not be a decision. A lot of sacking occurred regardless of the orders of their commanders in antiquity and the medieval period. That's true, but if it's mirroring the original sack of King's Landing, that was explicitly ordered by Tywin. So I feel like John Conn will probably, will order it, or he will he will begin it, and then people will sort of go along with it. Because no one orders King's Landing to be sacked at the end of Game of Thrones. It's just Dany starts destroying shit, and then the soldiers just go, fuck it, I guess we're sacking everything. The sack of Constantinople was wild. Like, that's not relevant, I'm just throwing it out there. That's kind of... The Fourth Crusade is such a, it's like, what? The fact that I think one of my patrons has officially given me the title The Late Lord Haven. I'm not gonna let that down. I was 3 minutes late, damn it. Yes, Cole's bringing up the whole idea of the Castle Rock having sewers, and Tyrion knows how was sent into them, and he knows how to get through them. Sneaking into Castle Rock, why would he need to sneak in? I guess if Cersei flees there. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Most of this stream is me saying, I don't know. But that's cool, isn't it? That we've been waiting for 11, 12 years and we're still like, I don't really know where the story's going. That's really cool. Where did Quinn come from? Get out of here, you bastard. He says gotta be Melisandre. Hey Quinn, I don't know if you're still watching, but you didn't mention Melora in your video and I unsubscribed. The dwarves are meant to represent rulers of Westeros, like Dany's undying vision. Okay, so he literally said that before I said it. Okay, so now it looks like I read that and copied him. Damn it, Quinn. You're always showing me up. Quinn has been consistently like 300 subs ahead of me for like months. Consistently 300 ahead. I'm going to overtake that motherfucker. Still no £100 super chat calling Fancy Haven gay? Yeah, still not. How long do I push that meme for? Keep pushing it until someone actually does it, and then I could just be like, wait, no, don't actually. Wait, stop. Okay, before I wrap up, I'll answer a couple of questions here. So Carl says, how/when did you start to do drawings, and how did you arrive at your current mouthless design? Why is that the thing people obsess over? People like the characters not having mouth. I think the big thing about the thing that stands out is their big eyes, right? They've got massive eyes. That's their shtick. It wasn't like, what should the design I did? What should the niche be? Oh, I know. No mouth. I really should add mouths. I don't know. It's too late. Anyway, when did I start? I guess I'm not really an artist. Like, I don't draw, really. Which sounds weird, but I'm not doing like an annoying fake brag thing or humble brag. Like, I generally didn't draw as a kid, and when I did, it was rubbish. And I always wanted to do animation for YouTube. I always had an idea of, because there was animated history, and I did history at uni, and I was like, what if I do some animated history videos, like oversimplified? And so I thought, okay, I need a style, and I just came up with a sort of a body without arms and legs. It's kind of like a game counter, and then a head with big eyes, with like the expression comes from the eyelids and so on. And over time they've got better, because I've got some old art that I've done. It looks rubbish. I mean, just looking at the my like best episode of Hot D, worst episode of Hot D, I've got some animation in there, and my old characters look rubbish compared to how they look now. But you know, I just worked at it on originally Photoshop, and then when I couldn't afford Adobe Photo P, which is free, Photo P is pretty good. It's basically like free Photoshop. And yeah, I don't know. I just experimented, and then I came to it, and now I add more shade. The more color and shading I add, the more it becomes like, oh, these drawings actually look kind of cool. Yeah. Callum says, bringing up super chats does make them happen more, like with likes and subs. Yeah, that's true. I don't mind or hold it against streamers. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Some YouTubers are like, I like talking about the behind the scenes stuff with you guys. Some YouTubers get embarrassed about promoting stuff, like they don't like promoting likes. They don't like promoting their channel and being like and subscribe. They don't like promoting their Patreon. Some channels like hide their Patreon at the bottom of their description, and they never mention that they have it. And it's like, for me, it's like, you know, this is a job, this is a career. You have to do self-promotion. You have to be like, hey, like, subscribe, comment if you want, check out my Patreon if you can afford it, and so on. Hence why I had a whole video basically being like, if you can afford it, check out my Patreon. But yeah, the super chat is just last time, because I repeat myself so much, I brought it up loads of times, and I was just like, oh, sounds like I'm begging. I'm doing alright. But yeah, I think to ask for super chats, I need to wait till I get more views per stream, because it feels a bit insulting to be like, you know, send me a super chat and I'll read it when there's only a few people in the chat. Like, when I've got a few hundred viewers and loads of people are commenting and I can't keep up, and it's like literally the only way I can respond is if you send it to me, sure. But speaking of plugging, just to let you know, I do in fact have a Patreon, and it's in the description, and I'm going to be shilling it. It's, according to Quinn, the rewards are bigger than most YouTubers. Actually, no, that's my words. He said I offer a lot of rewards, because I did some research, and lots of YouTubers, they don't offer much. They're like, give me money and you get nothing in return. So for my Patreon, I was like, okay, I'm actually going to give you some stuff. Have some free exclusive videos, have some wallpapers, have access to Discord, stuff like that. Barcello says, neurodivergent characters of A Song of Ice and Fire. Who do you think fits the bill? Stannis being autistic sounds believable to me personally. I wonder about other characters. That's a topic for another time, I think. That I could do a whole... Yeah. I need to wrap up shortly. That would get me rambling for a while. I think there are some characters that are coded as potentially being autistic. As someone who is neurodiverse, not autism but ADHD, I haven't noticed any characters that are sort of described as being particularly ADHD-ish. But I don't know, that could be a stream in itself, honestly. Okay, I think I will. Yeah, I'll wrap up now. I actually need to make food for my girlfriend, so I'm actually super late because that needs to be done 20 past and it's 10 past, so I have 10 minutes to make an entire meal. Holy shit, help. Like and subscribe, comment, share, keep being amazing fans. Video live streams hopefully will come out every Saturday. Videos will come out every Sunday. Ironborn, CK3, Game of Thrones video coming out Sunday. And I have a Patreon if you want to check it out and make me a millionaire. And more importantly, make me bigger than Quinn so I can rub it in his face. Love you all. Take care. Now I'm going to end stream and it's going to record the last few seconds after I press end stream because YouTube is very weird. So you can probably still hear me talking and I might cut out at a random point.